Hi, this is Jody from mcpactions.com. Thank you for your purchase of the Complete Workflow Actions. Today I'm going to be teaching you some real basics on how to use these actions. I also have tutorials on how to install actions, a video tutorial on my blog, so you might want to watch that. And in your PDF file, you have some screenshots on how to install actions as well. So you'll want to watch those first. The other important thing that we're going to be discussing today are layer masks. I have two tutorials on my blog. If you go under archives or do a search for layer masks, you can find those, and that will teach you a little bit about masking, because you may need to use some masking. Actually, you will be while you use some of these actions. I'm not going to be going into a lot of detail, only a little bit today with masking. So you'll want to watch those as well. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you two different pictures. We're going to run different actions on each. So we'll go ahead and go into our layers palette, and we will open the Complete Workflow Actions once you've got those installed. And you'll notice there are some instructions and tips built in as well. You can go ahead and play those like that, and it'll give you some details on how to use them. There's Oops, I Blew It and Peekaboo, which are to adjust exposure and to help you bring out detail from the shadows with Peekaboo. And after you're done running an action, if there are areas that do appear a little bit blown, which sometimes can happen with certain conversions, we have Oops, I Blew It. And we also have Darker and Richer, which will take the dark areas of the photo and make them a little darker, which will add contrast to your photos. A touch of color is an overall nice workflow to add a little punch to your photos. It will help bring out the colors, but it's not going to make them super vibrant. Color Burst has something built in called Paint on Pop, and this will allow you to actually paint extreme color where you want it and leave the rest of the photo just nice and contrasty. Color Explosion, it's very unique. I use that one mostly on outdoor photos to really bring out hidden colors in the photo. It's definitely not for every photo, but it does work great on many. Take My Color Away. Take My Color Away is a black and white action, and it also has two toned actions built in inside. So you can have black and white, and then you can also have Chocolate Wishes, which is a brown chocolate conversion. And you can also have Feeling Blue, which is a nice light blue conversion. Lastly, we have Old School Vintage, and Old School Vintage is going to give your photo that old time look. And it actually looks, any of these actions will look very nice finished off with my Burnt Edges action, which is free also on my website. So go ahead and grab that if you want to be adding some vignettes to your work. We're going to go ahead on this photo, and we are going to run a touch of color. I'll show you how it works. The first thing is it's going to pop up a message. It tells you to adjust your levels, and you'll see in this photo they're looking pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And it'll finish running through a few steps. And this is the sharpening layer. And each of my layers has this. And what you want to do is you'll want to zoom in on the eye area. So you can see we're on the eye now. What you're looking for is that for it to look similar to like an Etch-a-Sketch drawing from the 80s. You're wanting to just see kind of a fine outline. The default works pretty well on a lot of photos. It's at 1.8 for high res. For low res, you will need to go down. You can try bumping it up a little bit, and as long as preview is checked here, which it is by default, you can actually see it on your photo at the same time. So what you don't want it to look like is this, where you can actually see the photo coming through, where it looks clear as day, or even where it's almost clear as day. So we're looking for it to look like a sketch. So I'm going to go back down here in the 2s. I'm usually in high-res photos between 1 and about 3 or 4, depending on the photo and how many pixels it has and if it's close up or far away. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. The action will keep running, and then it's going to say adjust each layer to taste. You can turn the eyeballs on and off to use different layers, and if there's blown highlights, run Oops, I Blew It. If there's detail lost in the shadows, run Peekaboo. Now, Oops, I Blew It will not save highlights that are blown in your original. That you need to either use RAW to save, or it might not be able to be saved. But we cannot save those. So if those are there, don't even, there's no reason to try that. But okay, so we can now, once we've run the action, we're going to come down to our layers palette, And we're going to go through each layer real quick and see if it needs adjusting. And we can turn things on and off and see which way we like things better. And actually, light touch, I'm thinking I actually like off better, the way that worked better. So I'm going to leave light touch off, pop it and brighten up I liked better on, and the sharpening layer I liked better on. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to Alt click on my background layer, which will show us the before and the after. And you'll see it just open it up. It's much lighter. The colors are a little bit more vibrant in it, and so on. Okay, we're going to now go back to your original with this, and we're going to run Color Burst. And I'm going to do this one a lot faster, so I'm not going to explain what I'm doing as I run through it because it'll have pop-up instructions. Okay, it's going to say for extreme color, press stop. Paint on your photo with a white soft airbrush. Do not paint on the hair or skin. Click play when done to resume the action. To skip paint on pop, continue. So if you don't have anything where you want to exaggerate the colors any more than you're already seeing, then just go ahead and click continue. If not, go ahead and click stop. Then you'll use a soft edge airbrush, which I discuss in my layer masking tutorial, and you'll make sure white's in your foreground color. And you're going to go ahead and paint on anything where you want a little bit more color. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to paint on the red on the hat, maybe even on the green. I'm not going to get on his skin. I'm going to paint a little bit on his shirt to emphasize the oranges. And just this layer on and off, you can see, looks like that. And then there's all the layers in this one are a little different than a touch of color. So you're going to see increased contrast, which we can turn on and off. I like the way that looks on. A little more kick, on and off. Again, I like the way that looks on. Heat the color and cool the color are both off by default. They are to help you warm up or cool down your photo. They will not take care of color casts, however. So we want to go ahead and heat the color, do that. Cool the color, does that. And I actually like this one with neither one on. It looks good without either one. Then we've got color pop, which you'll see if we turn that on and off, it just takes away some of the color as well. And magic boost is going to make it a little bit deeper. And with it on, it's going to brighten it up and kind of give it a little bit more pop that way. So I like it with everything actually on except the heat the color and cool the color. And I like the defaults, but if I didn't, if I say I thought this had too much contrast, I could then come down here and decrease this. Or if I wanted more contrast, I could actually come in here and increase it. And actually increased it looks pretty good too. So our before and after for the whole photo now goes from that to that. And you can see that looks really good. The last one, actually I'm going to run two more on this photo. Probably getting tired of it, but we're going to come back to the original. And we're going to come back in here in our actions. And I'm going to go ahead and run Take My Color Away. And you're going to want, if at all possible, to run this on the original. And I'm going to actually boost the whites in this a little bit. Otherwise, it oftentimes will end up a little bit too contrasty for black and white in the color, the complete workflow actions. So we'll go ahead and run this. This is our sharpening layer. I'm just going to click OK. And this is going to tell you that you can run Oops, I Blew It, Out from the Shadows, Darker or Richer. Actually, Out from the Shadows is now called Peekaboo. Okay, so we're going to go ahead, and this one we're going to, it's already pre-ran in your black and white actions, the Peekaboo and Oops, I Blew It. And I'm going to go ahead and run, click on Oops, I Blew It, because it looks a little bit too bright to my taste here. And we can actually tell that by coming in here and actually putting our mouse over the skin. Well, it's at 243. 255 is blown. So we're actually okay. But if I wanted to make it a little bit darker, I could come in here and then change the opacity down. Peekaboo is going to bring darks out from the shadows, which I don't think this photo needs, but if you like a light and airy black and white, you may want to click on that. Darker and richer is going to take the dark areas and make them even darker, which in this photo actually looks really nice. So I'll click on that. And then, again, we've got the increased contrast, the lighten me up that you can turn on and off, and pop. Okay. Now, Feeling Blue is going to give this an overall blue tone, a little bit of a cool tone. Or Chocolate Wishes. Now, say you like Chocolate Wishes, but you thought it was a little too strong. You can come in here with the opacity and bump it down a little bit. And that's Take My Color Away. Last action I'm going to show you with this is Old School Vintage. Old School Vintage, I'm going to click play. Again, it's going to give you the same levels dialog box that pops up that you can adjust. It will finish running, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to click OK with the sharpening layer. And now we're going to go ahead and decide if we want to, okay, that's the old school vintage layer. If we want to brighten it up, if we want to pop it, if we want to do a light touch, and I'm going to actually take light touch off of this one, and sharp as a tack. So you can see the light touch made it a little bit too light to me. I wanted it a little bit more contrasty. We can also go with our pop it layer if we wanted, and it's already at 100%. So say we wanted it double that, we can actually Control J or Command J if you're on a Mac and do a pop it 2, which will add a little bit more boost and contrast there. So there you have it. That's our old school vintage. Now we're going to skip to another photo to show you color explosion. Color explosion is very vibrant, and it really needs an outdoor type photo most of the time to really make sense to use. So we're going to go ahead and run color explosion now. And this one you also have to be a lot more careful when you're painting on it, because you can't go back to the layer, the paint on pop layer, because there is not one, as there is in color burst. So it's going to say paint with a soft edge airbrush. You may actually sometimes need to make your opacity on your brush, instead of being at full softness, you might move it to about 50% when you get close to skin. That's just kind of a tip. If you overpaint, you're going to switch it back to black, and you're going to go back and forth until you get this looking really good. Once you're done, you need to click play, which is very important. You will not, it's not done, A, it's not done running, and B, you will not be able to save your photo unless you go back, because it will need to convert it back out of lab mode, which is the mode it's in for this conversion. So we're going to go ahead, and you'll see I'm going to paint on the canoes to bring out some color in those. I'm actually not going to paint on her dress today, and I'm going to avoid her skin. As you get close to the skin, this is what I was talking about, or the dress, you may want to come in on the brush palette and take the hardness and move it to about 50%, 49-50%. And then that way, when you get close, it'll be a little bit harder of a brush, so you won't see like a little, a lot of times people will do something like this and they'll end up with a little bit of a, like a halo around the subject, and you don't want that. But you also don't want it on the skin. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And I'm just going to use a quick mask here and see that I got everything. Okay, and we're going to go ahead now, and I'm going to continue the action. So all I'm going to do is click play right where it left off. And it's going to say in the next dialog box, you've got sharpening. So again, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did with sharpening on the other. There is no eyes in this one, so we're just going to bring it over to her head, or you could look at the water even. And since this is more of an environmental, I can probably pull this up a little bit. I'm going to click OK. And again, it's going to say you can run Oops, I Blew It or Peekaboo if you like. And we've got the layers to adjust. So, increase contrast. We've got that, or we've got that, and I like it on. Heat the color is going to warm things up, which I don't think we need here. Cool the color is going to cool things down, which I also don't think we need. And the color explosion layer, if you go down with this, it's going to make it really deep. If you go up with it, it's going to make it much more bright and vivid. So it's really up to you how you use this layer. Here's another fun trick. If you want to add your own little vignette, you can keep it kind of low. So you've got real dark areas in the background. So I'm going to keep this down at like, well, it's at 16 right now. Click on this layer mask. Make sure it's selected. Select black as your foreground color. And you can come in here, and I'm actually going to make the brush back real soft again. And what you would actually do is come in here, and we've right now color explosion, this layer, it's revealing that darkness. So we're going to come in here and paint on some lightness in the middle. It's probably hard for you to see on your screen, but we can actually make it so that it's lighter in the middle and darker. So that's kind of a cool little trick too. And I do that with a lot of different layers. You can do that with all kinds of layers in photos. Okay, so there you have it. That's the rest of the set. That's color explosion. We've gone through all of them. Actually, we did not go through running peekaboo and all that, but okay, say we wanted to bring out some of the shadow areas here and lighten them up a bit. We could go ahead and run peekaboo, and you'll see that brightened up all the dark areas of the photo. If we blew anything in her dress, we could go ahead and run Oops, I Blew It. I don't think we actually did, but, and you'll see how it, with the Oops, I Blew It layer, it actually runs Oops, I Blew It in Glow. And Oops, I Blew It, if you turn it off, you'll see any of those areas in the water too that were kind of blown highlights. It kind of helps save those. You can mask with this, so if it does impact any areas you didn't want it to, say like the canoe, you wanted to make sure it didn't impact the canoe, you want that nice and bright, we can go ahead and mask that. Okay, that's my complete workflow set. If you have any questions, just give me an email. And if you need more detailed instructions, remember I always do Photoshop tutoring as well. This is Jody from mcpactions.com. Please visit my blog for more tips and tutorials. Thank you very much.